Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here, and I believe that we're going to have a wonderful time with our speaker. And our speaker is in person of Dr. Henry Akintunde. He's a general practitioner, primary care training program director, and Royal College of General Practitioner examiner. He resides in UK, and he has written two books, Value Shift, and Smart Tips for Success as becoming the best version of you. I'm sure that he has loads of information from his experience to share with us at this moment, especially now that we have so many challenges in our own world, especially Africa. I would like to welcome Dr. Henry. Dr. Henry Akintunde, you're welcome to this platform.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olajide. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, students, teachers, and parents. It's an honor to be here this morning to just basically share some thoughts with you on the subject of value shift, learning from the best of two worlds. I'm just going to put up my screen and use that for the presentation this morning. So can I encourage you to be very close to your computer? We're going to be using the chat function a lot this morning. As much as possible, I want you to be part of this presentation. So I'm not just here to speak at you. I'm here to just share some thoughts and get you involved in it. And hopefully we can have a productive Q&A at the end. So value shift learning from the best of a book I recently wrote, and it's a summary of the main lessons I have learned from living in two worlds. I was born in Nigeria, had my primary school education in Nigeria, in Sokoto. I went to Federal Government College Jos, and then went to Obafemi Awolowo University and studied medicine. I served in Ibadan, worked for about 1.5 years in Lagos. So a little bit of experience, and I traveled widely across Nigeria before I left Nigeria. And since 2007, I've been living in the UK, and I now work as a general practitioner. But that's just my work life and a little bit of me. Along the line, I have learned quite a couple of lessons that have now answered some of the questions I've always had on my mind over the years. And I'm sure that there are many of you here that have some of those questions, and I hope to be able to share my thoughts with you on what I feel the answers are. Okay, I want you to type in the chat box what you believe are the 3 main reasons for Nigeria's underdevelopment. As you already know, Nigeria is called a developing country. Why do you think we have remained a developing country for a long time? So if you could just type in the chat box, and I'll just look through your answers. So you can type up to 3 reasons that you believe. So bad leadership, bad government, okay. Lack of governance, corruption, very good. Any more? Corruption, greed, bad governance, okay. Bad governance seems to be winning. Waste of resources, okay, very good. Greed, yeah. And I agree with you all. Corrupt leaders, absolutely. Any other thoughts other than corruption, greed, bad governance, selfishness of our leaders? Well done. Yes, so thank you all for those thoughts. So hold those thoughts in your mind. If any more come, still hold them, because we are going to be looking at the end of the day, and we will see whether our problem is really bad governance or not. So let's carry on.
Sir, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but we're not seeing the next slide. So it's not changing from our own end.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. Maybe you could try the slide show button. I'm not sure if that would help.
Okay, let me try that then.
Yeah, it's.
You can see that now.
Yes, thank you, sir.
I'll just try changing it so that you can confirm if you can see the next one. Can you see? Did it change?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for sharing your thoughts on what our main problems are and why we remain developing. So this was the question I had for a long time, that what are the differences between the developed countries from the developing countries? Why are developed countries developed? And why are developing countries forever developing? Nigeria has been developing before I was born and for all my life. How long is it going to be for us to eventually become developed? Why is pretty much all of Africa, with the exception of one or two countries, a developing continent? This question, over time, from discussions, and I'm sure you've all had discussions amongst yourself, different reasons had been given, and I'll give you some of the reasons, but I then critically examined those reasons and I came out with a different decision regarding them. So one of those reasons that was given is that it's history. Come on, Nigeria is a young country. We've only just turned 60. Why are we comparing ourselves with United Kingdom that have been there like forever, America that has a history of over 200 years as a nation? And we thought, okay, so eventually by the time we get to 150 years, we will become developed. So it's just a matter of time. We really need to give ourselves time. But when I did my study, I found that the developing nations of Africa have been in existence for as long as some developed countries in Europe. And this surprised me a bit. Now, remember, Nigeria started as a country in 1960, but the individual constituents of what became the nation Nigeria have been in existence for long. There have been empires and kingdoms. You would have heard of Oyo Empire, you will have heard of the Nok culture, the Benin Empire. So all these empires were there, and they've been there in existence for a long time. And when you really critically look at the history, we have been in existence for as long as some developed countries in Europe, if not longer than that. This is an example. There's a kingdom called the Kingdom of Aksum. This Kingdom of Aksum is in now what is modern day Eritrea and Ethiopia. Nobody knows when that kingdom exactly was established, but it was known that by as early as the 2nd and 3rd century AD, that kingdom was already rivaling the Roman Empire in terms of its prosperity. It was a very prosperous kingdom. This kingdom was was the first part of the world in Africa that Christianity was introduced to as early as the 8th century. This kingdom developed its own form of writing called Ge'ez, one of the earliest forms of writing in the world. As far back as then, they already had the technology to build this kind of structure that you can see here. A stone monolith is what it was called in that ancient time. So if that's an African kingdom that has been in existence for at least as far back as the 2nd, 3rd century AD. Another kingdom that may interest you that includes parts of Nigeria is what was called the Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire cut across about 12 different nations of modern day West Africa. So if you look at the map, you can see from like Senegal there, Gambia here, all the way cutting across Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Benin Republic. This one empire, it was said that the Songhai Empire was bigger than West Europe in terms of landmass at that time. The kingdom was very, very prosperous. It had its own system where they had governors in the different regions managing resources well. Eventually, the kingdom collapsed out of internal strife and eventually was also overcome by another kingdom. But so going by history, we don't have a short history. We have a history as long as the developed nations of the world. So history is not the problem here. Is it the natural resources that we have? So in the question of the natural resources, you would think about it in two ways. Is it that countries that have natural resources are the more prosperous ones? And straight away, when you think of Nigeria, you see that that's not the case. Or is it like some people say, is our natural resource a curse to us? Again, we need to look at the evidence and see whether countries that have natural resources are cursed and those that don't are not. So I want you to guess, again, using the chart function, the 10 countries in the world with the most natural resources. So if you just type in the charts what your guesses are regarding that. The 10 countries in the world with the most natural resources. Okay, Nigeria, Ghana, Nigeria. Okay, Nigeria, Singapore, Iraq, Nigeria, okay. So many people believe that Nigeria is one of the countries in the world with the most natural resources. That's good. Ghana, Ivory Coast, Spain. Okay, okay. Okay, well done for all those guesses. It was a guess. So here are the 10 countries in the world with the most natural resources in order of how rich they are. So China is rated as the country that's got the most natural resources, all the way to Australia on that list. DRC is Democratic Republic of Congo. So in Africa, only one country really makes it to the list of 10 countries that have the most natural resources. However, the countries that I have underlined are the ones that are classified as very developed. So the United Nations use what it calls the Human Development Index to rate how developed countries are. So countries that have what is called a very high Human Development Index, there are about 66 of them. Only one African country makes it to that list, and that is Mauritius, and it's number 66. But these other 5 that I've underlined are in those top 66. Venezuela, DRC, they are considered developing nations. Brazil, India, China are moving gradually more up the ladder. But what you will see from this list is that natural resource or not does not determine whether a country is developed. On the list of top 10, half are developed or very developed, half are still developing. So it is about how a country or nation uses its natural resource. It's not so much about whether they have it or not. So natural resources or the lack of it is not always a determinant of the development of any nation. I live in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is in the top 66 nations in the world that have very high Human Development Index. United Kingdom does not have one natural resource, not even one, and yet it's a country with very high Human Development Index. Is it the education system? And that's a question thinking about. Does Africa need more graduates in order for Africa to become more developed or to become developed? Are African graduates not as smart as their European or American counterparts? And we will see what the answers are. But before we go to that, can you guess what percentage of the population of USA are graduates? What percentage of that nation are graduates? Again, let's see what you think about it. Okay, 45, 35, 50. Some very good guesses there. Somebody came very close to it. 30, 30, 40, less than 50, 35, okay? Yes, so the answer is actually 36%. 36% of the USA population have either an undergraduate degree or something more advanced. So again, you see that you don't need everybody who can be a graduate to be a graduate for you to develop. So does Africa need more graduates? Not necessarily. As much as possible, as many people as can be graduates should be, and everybody should achieve their potential to the highest. But is it that our graduates are not as smart as their counterparts in the rest of the world? And the answer to that is clearly not true. Now, these are some popular faces that you know. Wole Soyinka, our only Nobel laureate in literature till date. Okonjo-Iweala, now possibly going to become the next WTO president, World Trade Organization. That's Akinwumi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank. So these are sons of the soil, sons and daughters of the soil, making us proud. Some of them trained here in Nigeria. I believe Akinwumi Adesina trained in Ife, I believe. So Wale Soyinka was a lecturer at Ife at some point. So they trained here, they got their education here, and they are doing well. But there are some other people that you may not even know some of them. This is Dr. Oluyinka Olutoye. He is a doctor that is practicing in Texas. He trained here in Nigeria, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. And he made record about 3-4 years ago when he led a team of surgeons to, for the first time, operate on an unborn baby. So the baby was in the womb, and they found that the baby had a tumor at the towards the buttocks area. And they opened the womb during pregnancy, brought the baby out for about 20 minutes, operated on the baby, and put the baby back, and the baby continued to grow until the baby was delivered. And so that was groundbreaking, but a Nigerian was behind all of that. This is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, multi-award winning poet and literalist. She's Nigerian. She got part of her education in Nigeria and the rest in America, but she's making Nigeria proud out there. So the evidence is overwhelming that our graduates are doing well wherever they find themselves. So it's not that our graduates are not smart. On the contrary, I will argue that our graduates are some of the smartest across the world. Now, at this end here is another doctor, Dr. Bennett Omalu. Dr. Bennett Omalu is actually incredible. And I want to share a summary of his story with you in a video clip. So just give me a minute to find that clip. Let's see. Yeah, this is the one I want.
I am the wrong person to have discovered this.
If you don't speak for them, who will?
You're about to meet the real-life doctor who discovered that insidious disease found in the brains of athletes who suffered repeated blows to the head.
The new film, Concussion, based on the true story of Dr. Bennett Omalu.
The man Smith portrays in the film is Dr. Bennett Omalu, a Nigerian-born forensic pathologist.
It's become a who's who of former NFL stars, enough to line a wing of the Hall of Fame, who've complained about or were diagnosed with ailments connected to repeated blows to the head. Determined to find answers, he analyzed Webster's brain and uncovered a new medical condition. Omalu named it chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE.
The most significant contributory factor to CTE is exposure to blunt force trauma of the head.
Omalu published his findings in the medical journal Neurosurgery.
What was the reaction from the National Football League?
Dr. Omalu says the film is true to every detail, down to the way he talks.
I listened to his voice, and Bennett's voice is a lot more round. The sound of Bennett's voice.
We can do unimaginable things only if we believe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Bennett Omalu.
So that's a clip about Dr. Bennett Omalu. So, excuse me, sorry. So Dr. Bennett Omalu trained in University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and then moved to the United States thereafter. Now, the impressive thing about him is that you almost feel like all the diseases that have been discovered, and it would be very rare. He works as a forensic pathologist. That's the people who deal with dead bodies, that they do post-mortem to try and discover the cause of the death. So that's what is actually very impressive, that somebody working in that field discovered a disease and named it. So he found that in the brain of people who had played American football, and in America, American football is big, massive, that they were, due to the repeated head injuries that they get, whether mild, whether severe, whether it's the one that they get a concussion from, that repeated damage to the head actually in the future causes brain damage. And people can then develop several diseases from that: depression, suicidal tendencies, the tendency to start abusing alcohol, and eventually a number of those American footballers took their lives. Now, if you can watch the movie, it's called Concussion, and his role was cast by Will Smith. Very beautiful movie. But that's another Nigerian doing exploits in the world. So our graduates are not in any way less smart than graduates from other places in the world. Is it the population? So if a country is large, like they keep saying that Africa is overpopulated, is that why we are underdeveloped? What is the evidence to support that? And what is the evidence to show that countries that are small are developed and compared to their counterparts? The simple answer here is that population size is not a significant factor in the development of any nation. USA has about 328 million people. It's still a developed country. Russia is massive. India has the second largest population in the world. China has the highest population in the world. Yet, those two countries are moving towards development. So it has nothing to do. Norway has a population of 5 million, and Norway is the #1 country on the Human Development Index. So population has nothing to do with it. There are developed countries that have a large population. There are developed countries that have a small population, in the same way that there are developing countries on both sides. Is it the leadership? Now, I know when I did the poll, most of you said leadership, leadership, leadership. Now, I want you to reflect and think about this. Leaders are chosen from among the people, and every nation gets the kind of leaders it deserves. Have you noticed that our leaders don't come from space? They don't come from Mars. Now, I know some people have said that President Buhari is Jubril of Sudan. Even if that were true, did all the other presidents come from Sudan before him? They came from Nigeria, and I believe Buhari is from Nigeria anyway. I just said that as a joke. So our leaders develop from amongst us. So is it just bad luck that we have had bad leaders in succession? Is that just bad luck? Or is there something fundamentally wrong with us as a nation that means that we will continue to produce one bad leader after another? Leaders are chosen from among the people. Every nation gets the kind of leaders it deserves. Now, there's a responsibility on the shoulder of leaders, but one of the things I want you to leave here with today is that the leaders are not the only problem. There's a good chance that you are part of the problem, and I'm hoping that you will leave here today as part of the solution and not just part of the problem. The act of nation building is greater than the capability of an individual. The act of nation building is greater than the capability. There's no one person that can single-handedly make a nation developed. It would need committed citizenship, patriotic citizens, willing to walk along with that person that has the vision to be able to make a nation developing. So leadership is part of the problem, but it's not the main reason why we have been underdeveloped for such a long time. So I guess the question now is, what is the main reason why we have been underdeveloped for a long time? And the answer, you wouldn't believe it, is something as simple as this. It's the value system. It's the value system that we have as a people. That's why we have remained underdeveloped for a long time. And for the rest of this talk, I'm hoping I can convince you that that's the case. So what is a value system? A value system, this is the definition: a system of established values, norms, or goals existing in a society. So how people, this is opposed to an individual value system, but that also reflects in the society. But how people in a society, what they place values on, how they behave in certain situations, what are their aspirations as a group of people, collective, in that society. That's what the value system of any society is. Now, again, we're going to interact on the chat. Can you list what you believe are 3 value systems that you believe as Nigerians we should be proud of this? To say, no, this is, I'm very proud of this as a Nigerian, that we have this as a value system. So 3 value systems that as Nigerians we should be proud of. I'm looking at the chart now. Respect our many tribes, our culture. Respect, yes. Honesty, hard work, absolutely. Integrity, yes. Any more? Yes. Languages and tribes, yes. Our diversity, I believe, is what your humility, okay. I'll put a question mark on that, whether we are truly humble, but yes. Respect, not giving up. Resilience, absolutely. So I don't even need to say anymore. You have listed some of those things that I believe are most treasured value systems that we need to keep up as a nation. So straight away, you will see that my position is that not everything about Nigeria is wrong. Not everything about Nigeria is bad. There are things we should be very proud of and absolutely proud of. We have our citizens doing well across the world. So there are so many good things about us as a nation and as a group of people. So communal spirit. And by communal spirit, I mean that spirit of community that we operate in. You know, it was when I got here to the UK that I never questioned it. Everybody was one uncle or auntie and all of that. But then when they then ask you how you are related to the person, you are thinking, at the end, you discover you are not really related. But everybody's brother, everybody's sister, everybody's uncle, everybody's auntie, everybody looks out for the interest of the other person. I miss that in my early years here in the UK, before I started forming a community here, you know, even with things like childcare that you never thought about, there were always parents there to help and things like that. You then come here and you have to pay through your nose for that. So communal spirit, that's a good value system and one we must carry on, being our brothers and sisters keeper, looking out for the interest of each other. Diligence, somebody mentioned hard work. We're known for that. Wherever I've not gone to one place and they say that the Nigerian working there, here in the UK, I mean, is the one slacking off. If anything, they are the ones taking on extra shifts. They are the one doing the hard work. Nigerians are diligent, and that stands us out. All those names I showed you, they stood out here in a foreign land because they are diligent. They are very good at what they do. And number 3, respect and care for the elders. Somebody mentioned respect. Absolutely. It's a very good culture. It's a very good value system that we need to carry on. You know, as a GP here, I look after residents in a nursing home. And one of the things that first struck me was that the practice I work for, we have about 5 nursing homes that we look after. And I primarily look after one, but I've visited the others a couple of times. And that in all my years of working in general practice, I have not seen one African person in a care home. I haven't seen one yet. So, but I've seen other tribes there. And I asked myself, are there no elderly Africans in care homes? And I went to check. They make up about 3% of the population of care homes in the UK, even though about 14% are Black and minority ethnic groups. So we are underrepresented in the care home. Do they not have health needs like other people? They certainly do. But their relatives take them in and look after them until they die. It's part of our respect and care for elders. But saying about those things that are good about us, we still are a developing country. In as much as we have some good value systems, we have so many other bad value systems. And those are the ones that I want us to exchange for some progressive value systems so that we can become a developed country in our lifetime. So I'm going to share with us my experience of the 2 worlds, how I came about this value shift thing. Like I said, I practiced medicine for some time in Nigeria. I believe I was a good doctor. I believe I had the care of my patients in my mind. Also, I thought, until I got challenged by a different system with a different value system. Now, on this particular day, this was within my first few months in the UK, I was working in the emergency medicine department, the accidents and emergency, and the ambulance brought in a lady. She wouldn't have been more than 18, 19 years old, and she had taken an overdose, and she was found partly unconscious and all of that. And suddenly, in fact, even before they came, the paramedics had phoned in that we're bringing in an unconscious patient that's taken overdose. Already, things had gone into a frenzy. They were already preparing to receive, getting things ready. When the patient came, it was like everybody was doing what they could to try and save her. Somebody is taking blood tests. Another person is getting treatment ready to flush the overdose out of our system. Somebody is already speaking to the psychiatrist to come and see. And I was thinking to myself, somebody wants to kill themselves. Why is everybody running around? And later, much later, as I thought about it, I actually felt a sense of shame. Because the reality is, when I was in Nigeria, if I was doing a busy shift, dealing with accident victims, dealing with people that have proper illness, and then you bring somebody that's taking overdose, I was like, why are they bothering me about this? But in the UK, it's a different mindset completely. Is that this person is not in the right frame of mind. Even though they think they are worthless to everybody to take their own lives, we still value them as a human being, and we will do our best to save them. And that's when I asked myself, I said, I took the Hippocratic oath to say I will protect lives. Now, this is a life here. This is the time that I should demonstrate that oath that I had taken, and I felt like I had failed. And that began that question in my mind. And I began to look at everything, the polity, the health sector, the transportation, the social welfare package. Everything was built or has been built around the value for human life. So I feel, and when I then examine Nigeria as an example of a developing nation, I feel that comparatively, we definitely value lives less. Otherwise, why would there be insecurity for so long? People are being kidnapped, day after day, people are being killed, and it almost seems that nobody's doing anything about it. And nobody has declared a state of emergency on such a security issue. That's just one area. When I was in medical school, they say every year 500,000 women die as a result of childbirth and pregnancy. I checked the data still about 2 years ago, it had not changed. Why for so many years, for over 10 years, 500,000 women are still dying as a result of childbirth and pregnancy? We value human life less. And so we need to live here today with a sense of beginning to value ourselves as human beings, recognizing that we are the greatest resource on earth. In the good book, Jesus said, what will it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? In other words, the value of the whole world is not what's the value of one soul. And that we must remember. I think the developed nations have got that mindset right, and we need to develop that kind of mindset. So developed countries build their value system around people, no more, no less. Now, of the three problems that you earlier listed, if you had the opportunity to change only one thing, which will it be and why? Again, in the chat, just type what your answer is. If you had the opportunity to change just one thing, what will it be and why? Okay. Our value for human life. Okay, somebody is really getting the gist. Well done. Any other person wants to type any answer? Pollution, okay. Perhaps the atmospheric pollution. I still feel like the people in power are affecting our values. And you're right, and I agree with you. I agree with you. Absolutely. Value for human life. Leadership, because it's very pertinent to progress. Absolutely. The misuse of power. And I agree with you all on those suggestions that you have made. Thank you for making those suggestions. So let's move on. I want to share with you today 5 value systems that we need to change. In total, I shared 10 in my book, but I would only have time to share 5 with you today. The first one is service, not power. So those who said that we should start with the leadership, I agree with you. Now, I believe leadership is part of the problem, but they are not the main problem. The main problem is there's a value system that makes it okay for leaders to be bad and stay bad all through because there's no consequence going to come to them. That's what needs to change. But leaders will be very instrumental in bringing about that change because the very position of leadership is all about influence, is all about bringing in change. So leaders will probably be very, very instrumental, especially because they have the power to make laws. And what you realize about laws is that today's law will become tomorrow's culture. The law that is made today becomes the culture of tomorrow. So for that reason, I feel this is the first value system that needs to change, that it's a value system of service and not power. Service, not power. Systems, not individuals. Production, not consumption. Empowerment, not enforcement. Outcomes, not infrastructures. Now I'm just going to go through those value systems. So service, not power. Leadership, recognize that leadership at all levels is for the service of those being led. Leadership is not about lording it over people, is not about blowing siren to travel whenever you are traveling, is not about increasing your own allowances once you become a senator every year on year. No, leadership is about serving the people that you're leading. At all levels, leadership is service. Remember what Jesus said, whoever must be the greatest amongst you must be the one that serves the most. What that principle says is that the higher you are in leadership, the more you are expected to serve. The higher you are in leadership, the more you're expected to serve. Now, I know I'm talking to many students here. I had the privilege of being a prefect when I was in secondary school, even in primary school. However, I did not get the right concept of leadership. Even at that low level, I still felt being a prefect or leadership was about power. It was about privileges. I didn't recognize at that point that it's about service. If you have that opportunity and you're currently leading, or you will have the opportunity to lead in the future, remember that leadership is about service. It's for you to be at the behest of the people that you're serving. And so at all levels, we need to get that message across. Leadership is about service. It's not about being served. Now, systems, not individuals. We need to start focusing on building strong systems and not just individuals. I think one of the reasons that elections are almost like do or die in Africa is because we have a messiah kind of mentality. Every election, we believe that maybe this is the year we're going to vote the person that will finally deliver us. Remember, nation building is too much a task for one person to do. But they can initiate the change. Change can be initiated by individuals, but it can only be sustained by systems. If the individual who brought the change does not implement it in system, it means that person would need to continually be in power in order to sustain that change. But what wise people do is that they build the change into the system so that it can carry on even when they are no longer there. So change is initiated by individuals, but is sustained by systems. One of the things I've found in developed countries is that they build their system strong and everybody at every level is subjected to that system. There's no favoritism or anything of that sort. Everybody is subjected to the system. We need to start building system. Our founding fathers had this kind of vision. That's why the likes of Awo in the Western region could think of things like building those quality universities, making education free, set up a radio station, those sort of things. They were trying to build systems. It's unfortunate that their visions were truncated, but we need to go back to that, building systems. This is what Barack Obama said, and I agree with him. Africa does not need strong men. It needs strong institutions. Now, I know that strong institutions will be built by strong men, but the emphasis should be on the institutions, not on the men themselves. We need strong institutions, not strong men. Now, we talked about corruption. Some of you listed corruption as one of our big problems. Now, corruption is a systemic problem. The solution is a systemic one. This is a triangle called the fraud triangle. And I'll show proof to you through this triangle why corruption is thriving in Nigeria and how it can be solved. For there to be fraud of any sort, you need these three things to be present. There needs to be a pressure, either a financial or emotional pressure, pushing people towards becoming fraudulent, something that wants to make them get more money. And unfortunately, the language we use, even for our national commonwealth, is one that creates that kind of pressure. We call it national cake. What do people do with cake? They eat cakes. So when people get to power, they want a slice of the cake. Here, we call our commonwealth, we call it public funds. So it's a different mindset. It means it's not your money. It's not a private fund, it's a public fund. So you need to use it for the good of the public. So we need to start changing some of those terminologies. Sometimes even some of the messages that are preached in church encourage greed and some of those things. The kind of prayers that parents sometimes pray for their children, when you really think about it, is that you too, you will get there and you will do for us. It's pressure. And we need to change that sort of pressure if we don't want corruption to keep thriving. The next thing is opportunity. For there to be fraud, there has to be opportunity. Somebody had access to the money and there was nothing to check. And that's why here they focus on checks and balances. If you are in an organization, it's not possible for one person to be the only one to be able to sign money out of account. Any transaction, even electronic transaction, will need the signature, or well, not signature, the approval of at least 2 signatories. So that way, they've not opened the access for somebody who is under that pressure to be able to siphon the money without any checks and balance in the system. And the last one is rationalization. So that individual is justifying why they feel that embezzling that fund, there's nothing wrong with it. But in Nigeria, it's not only about the individual, it's also about the system. We as people, we have apathy towards people embezzling our funds. We don't require accountability from them and we don't hold them. In fact, if anything, what we will say is that we are not saying they shouldn't embezzle. We are just saying they shouldn't embezzle too much. They should use some of the money to do something. Or well, if we get there too, we will do, but at least we will try and do what we can do for the nation. It's rationalization. So you can see why corruption is thriving in Nigeria, because all these 3 things are there. If we want to stop corruption, we need to start working against that pressure. Change the everyday language we use. We need to start putting systems in place to block all these loopholes where individuals have undue access to the funds of the public. We need to start rationalizing properly, not justifying why it's okay for people to embezzle, provided it's a little bit of embezzlement. No, we need to change that mindset. It's a systemic issue. It's not something to do with an individual. Production, not consumption. You know, we have an attitude in Nigeria of just, I think it's an attitude of waste sometimes. We look for any opportunity to throw parties, to do things to just impress people who are not even impressed. We have a mindset that money is meant to be spent. In my culture, they will say money is for spending. But that's a mindset that encourages consumption. The primary purpose of money is not to be spent, it's to be multiplied. It's out of what you've multiplied that you then spend. But we spend money needlessly. We are the biggest consumers of many of the nice products made in different parts of the world. Nigeria is a big market for many of these things. When Nigerians come shopping, and in my book I gave some statistics, come shopping in different parts of the world, we are the biggest shoppers amongst the people that visit. So we just have a culture of consuming, but we need to change that mindset to a mindset of producing. We need to also recognize that foreign does not always mean better. We have a mindset that prefers to buy foreign products, and we trust those products better than we trust homemade products. How are we going to grow the homemade industries if we keep buying things that are foreign? Foreign does not always mean better. We can make our own products better too. Until a nation learns to produce, it would always remain a developing nation. You know, one of the indices for development is what is called the GDP, gross domestic product. And that's more a factor of production. If a country cannot produce and be the one exporting rather than importing, then that nation will always remain a developing nation. So we need to change that mindset of consumption. Now, this picture tells 1,000 words. in this picture, there are three of some of the richest men in the world. Bill Gates is now number 4 richest man in the world. That's Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, is number 5 richest man in the world. That's Jack Ma. He's one of the richest men in China and in Asia. Now look at them. They are dressed. This is not just another casual day. This is probably them on their regular day. See, between the three of them, their assets combined is 138 billion. And there's no Gucci belts, there's no Armani suit, no D&G shoes, no Rolex watch, no fashionable outfit, not single piece of jewelry. But I don't know what the problem is with us Black, that we want to wear all our wealth on us to be seen. And even the so-called Black rich people have this mindset. And that's why in some of the richest people in the world, the top 10 billionaires or beyond, there are no Black people there in the world, because that mindset is there. And unfortunately, many young people are modeling themselves after these people that will put these big chains on their neck and all of that. That's not necessarily a demonstration of wealth. Wealth is more about what you're able to use, what you have gathered to do for good, not just to wear it all on yourself. It's still an attitude of consumption, not production. Empowerment, not enforcement. As a nation, we need to de-emphasize the use of force and promote empowerment with information. What I have found here is that lots of effort and resources goes into educating people. Even in my job as a patient, as a doctor, most times when patients are leaving, there's already a leaflet that I will give to them or signpost them to say, go to this website and go and read more information about what we have discussed today. And it's done in so many languages so that they can understand. But in Africa, we emphasize too much on the use of force and do very little in terms of increasing knowledge. I'm not talking about knowledge that you get from education. I'm talking about mass awareness, general effort into increasing the knowledge of the populace in a particular area. We don't do as well in that area, but we use force a lot, and we need to try and bring that down. I'm going to share a personal experience with you. I'm mindful of my time now. About a speed awareness course I attended. So once I was over speeding, I was driving at 36 miles per hour in a place where I should be driving 30 miles per hour. And I didn't even know, the camera caught me straight. I couldn't argue it. I just got the letter in my post that you were over speeding. You have a choice now. You either get 3 penalty points on your driver's license, and if you get 12 penalty points, you lose your driver's license. Or, and you pay a pound of, I think then it was 60 pounds, or you pay that 60 pounds, but rather than get the fine, you are going to go for a speed awareness course. And at the end of the day, if they confirm to us that you attended, you will not get the points. Obviously, I didn't want the points. So I went for the speed awareness course, but it was just for formality. It was just to fulfill all righteousness. But I wasn't prepared for what was going to happen to me. At the speed awareness course, I'd been driving in Nigeria before I came to the UK, but when I look back at the end of that course, I just thank God. I think the angels must have been on extra duty to protect me whilst I was driving, because many of these things I didn't know. And so it was sort of the proper awareness course. But one of the things that stuck with me the most is that there's science behind the speed limit that they put there. They don't just put speed limit for putting sake. There's a science behind it. That in places, in residential areas, the speed limit is put at 30, sometimes 20, for a reason. That if you're driving through and a child just crosses the road, you didn't see them, and you happen to knock them down. If you knock that child at 30 miles per hour, there's an 80% chance that that child will survive. If you knock that child down at just 10 miles per hour extra, 40 miles per hour, there's an 80% chance that that child will die. So just a difference of 10 miles per hour, see the difference it makes in whether a child survives or not if they are knocked down. And you see, once I knew that, I didn't need any speed camera or any police to monitor me. That knowledge liberated me, and I regulate my own speed when I'm driving. This is what information can do. Now, resources that would have been used to be policing me and other people around, by just giving us that knowledge, has liberated and freed that resources. We need to spend more time, more effort in giving people knowledge rather than just needlessly enforcing the law. Now, people who break the law, there will be a few that will still break after all that information. Yes, the law is there to punish them, but not for everybody. Now, these are two different pictures. India and UK during the coronavirus, the peak of it, well, the first wave in March, April. In India, police were on the street flogging people. There are many more pictures like this. People who broke lockdown rules, this is how they were dealing with them. It was in the news. In the UK, this was what we were seeing. Every 15 minutes, the chief medical officer will be on the TV telling you why you need to stay at home, how that would help save lives, how you protect the NHS. During the lockdown, I could still drive to work because I'm a key worker. On the billboards, this is what you will see. Stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives. And guess what? On the streets, you didn't see people because they were staying at home, following the rules, because they knew why they were doing that. That it was for their own protection, but also for the protection of the lives of other people. This is what empowerment can do, and we need to start focusing on empowerment. I think this is the last one, outcomes, not infrastructures. Now, every election, people will come, we're going to build roads, we're going to build schools, we're going to build this. Now, has anyone ever asked, what is the whole point of building schools if you don't put enough teachers there, if you don't fund it appropriately? What is the aim of building the schools? The roads that they say they've been, every election since I've known they've been building roads. When are they going to finish building the roads? Why are there people still dying on the roads from road traffic collisions regularly? Because it takes more than just roads to save lives. If you want to save lives, yes, they need good roads, but are you regulating the people that you are giving driver's license? I remember the first time I went to get driver's license in Nigeria. I really hope it has changed. You know, they asked me all other questions, but nobody even asked me, can you drive? And they gave me driver's license. Now imagine you get on the road and you drive like that. And that's the kind of crazy driving happening in places like Lagos, because nobody is doing driving lessons. Nobody's certifying, licensing people properly. So how are you going to reduce accidents on the road if you don't put all those measures? How do you catch people that are over speeding? So it takes more than just building roads to save lives on the road. So outcomes is what we should start being interested in. We want to know how many people are dying in our hospitals regularly and why they are dying. What has been done over the years to reduce those deaths? We want to know how many people are dying through road traffic accidents and what the government is doing to reduce it. It's about outcomes, not just infrastructure. The Abiye program, this is a program, and this is just a story to show you, real life story. This happened in Ondo State under Governor Mimiko, to show you that outcomes are not the big issue. Infrastructure are not the big issue. Outcomes are. When they released the maternal mortality data in Nigeria, I think it was 2009 or so, Ondo State had the worst in the southwest of Nigeria. And because that governor at the time was a medical doctor, he felt embarrassed by it and he felt he needed to do something about it. And they came up with this Abiye program. And the program was very simple. Every pregnant woman in Ondo State, especially in the rural areas, will be registered. They will attend maternity regularly. They attached a link worker to them that had their mobile number, and they had the mobile number of the link worker. If there was any health problem, that was the first person they called. They had this Keke Marwa kind of cycles and motorcycles that they will use to transport them if they cannot be cared for at that small level to another level. And at the end of the day, at the end of the 5 years of the program, Ondo State was the only state in the Southwest that achieved its maternal mortality target of reducing it by 75%. But at the end of the day, it didn't cost too much money. What they did was use the resource they had. They just needed to put a system in place and have a goal that they wanted to achieve, and they achieved it. So, outcomes. This is what the first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, this is what he said around the time of Ghana's independence. He said, my objective is to abolish from Ghana poverty, ignorance, and disease. Those are outcomes. You want to abolish poverty. You want to abolish ignorance. You want to abolish disease. That's an outcome. He said, we will measure our progress by the improvement in the health of our people, not how many hospitals are around or that you build. It's the improvement in the health of the people. That's an outcome. By the number of children in school, not how many schools you have, how many children are in school. By the quality of the education they get. The ones in school, are they getting good education? The availability of water and electricity in our towns and villages. and by the happiness which our people take in being able to manage their own affairs. The welfare of our people is our chief pride, and it is by this that the government will ask to be judged. People of, ladies and gentlemen, this is what outcomes is about. This is what we need to start focusing on. So what can you start doing now? Firstly, take pride in your country. Nigeria is great, regardless of all the problems we have. If we are waiting for Nigeria to be great before we start taking pride in Nigeria, that's not going to happen. People take pride in their country, and hence they make their country great. You know, if you can't argue with an American that USA is the greatest nation on earth. You just cannot win that argument because they believe in it with all of their heart. They believe in it with all of their heart. That's taking pride in your country. So take pride in your country, Nigeria. That's how you're going to be involved in this journey of making it great. Change begins with you. I said at the beginning that recognize that you also, in some ways, have been part of the problem. Change begins with you. Some of these value systems I talked about today, make a decision to start imbibing those value systems. Believe that you can make a difference, and it's important that you do that. I'm just going to share one last video clip, and I'll round up on that, about the belief that you can make a difference. Excuse me for a minute, please. I think I may have minimized it. So this is the story of a young chap in Kenya who made a difference in his own very small way, and was
This is where I live. I live in Kenya at the south parts of the Nairobi National Park. Those are my dad's cows at the back, and behind the cows, that's the Nairobi National Park. Nairobi National Park is not fenced in the south where I live, which means wild animals like zebras migrate out of the park freely. So predators like lions follow them, and this is what they do. They kill our livestock. This is one of the cows which was killed at night, and I just woke up in the morning and I found it dead, and I felt so bad because it was the only bull we had. My community, the Maasai, we believe that we came from heaven with all our animals and all the land for herding them, and that's why we value them so much. So I grew up hating lions so much. The Morans are the warriors who protect our community and the livestock, and they were so upset about this problem. So they killed the lions. It's one of the 6 lions which were killed in Nairobi. And I think this is why the Nairobi National Park lions are few. So a boy from 6 to 9 years old in my community is responsible for his dad's cows. And that's the same thing which happened to me. So I had to find a way of solving this problem. And the first idea I got was to use fire, because I thought lions were scared of fire. But I came to realize that that didn't really help, because it was even helping the lions to see through the caution. So I didn't give up. I continued. And the second idea I got was to use a scarecrow. I was trying to trick the lions that I was standing near the cow shed. But lions are very clever. They will come the first day and they see the scarecrow and they go back. But the second day, they'll come and they say, this thing is not moving here, it's always here. So it jumps in and kills the animals. So one night, I was walking around the cow shed with a torch. And that day, the lions didn't come. And I discovered that lions were afraid of a moving light. So I had an idea. Since I was a small boy, I used to work in my room for the whole day. And I even took apart my mom's new radio. And that day, she almost killed me, but I learned a lot about electronics. So I got an old car battery, an indicator box. It's a small device found in the motorcycle, and it helps motorists when they want to turn right or left. It blinks, and I got a switch where I can switch on the lights on and off. And that's a small torch from a broken flashlight. So I set up everything. As you can see, the solar panel charges the battery, and the battery supplies the power to the small indicator box. I call it a transformer. And the indicator box makes the lights to flash. And as you can see, the bulbs face outside because that's where the lions come from. And that's how it looks to lions when they come at night. The lights flash and trick lions that I was walking around the cowshed, but I was sleeping in my bed. Thanks. So I set it up in my home 2 years ago, and since then, we have never experienced any problem with the lions. And my neighboring homes heard about this idea. One of them was this grandmother. She had a lot of animals being killed by lions. And she asked me if I can put the lights for her, and I said, yes. So I put the lights. You can see at the back, those are the lion lights. Since now, I've set up 7 bombers around my community, and they're really working. And my idea is also being used now in all over Kenya for scaring other predators like hyenas, leopards, and also it's also being used to scare elephants away from people's farms. Because of this invention, I was lucky to get a scholarship in one of the best schools in Kenya, Brookhouse International School, and I'm really excited about this. My new school now is coming in and helping by fundraising and creating an awareness. I even took back my friends to my community, and we're installing the lights to the homes which don't have, and I'm teaching them how to put them. So 1 year ago, I was just a boy in the savannah grassland, herding my father's cows, and I used to see planes flying over, and I told myself that one day I'll be there inside. So, and here I am today. I got a chance to come by plane for my first time for TED. So my big dream is to become an aircraft engineer and pilot when I grow up. I used to hate lions, but now because my invention is saving my father's cows and the lions, we're able to stay with the lions without any conflict. Ashole, it means in my language. Thank you very much.
So I just shared that with you so that you'll be encouraged that you can make a difference. Even right now, where you are, you can make a difference and make a decision that you can make a difference. You've got to believe in yourself that you're capable of making a difference. And so my final word today is the words of Mother Teresa. He said, "We know only too well that what we are doing is nothing more than a drop in the ocean." And that's how some of you may feel, that what can I do? I would just be like a tiny drop in an ocean. But listen to this. If the drop were not there, the ocean will be missing something. It will still be an ocean, but it would be missing that drop. So your drop can make a difference. And I hope that you leave here inspired to start to practice these value systems we've talked about and begin to be part of the solution, not the problem. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate it. Thank you for challenging us to both take pride in our country, Nigeria, but also to take small steps in making change wherever we are, whether it's in our schools, whether it's in our families, our communities, or the nation as a whole. So we want to go into a time of Q&A. And so we'd like to put, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat and I'll address them to Dr. Henry. Or if you'd like to raise your hand, you can use that function as well, and then we'll unmute you, and then you can share your question that way as well. So maybe, sir, like while we're waiting for questions to go in the chat, maybe you'd like to just give a brief introduction about your book as well.
Okay.
Before questions begin. Yeah.
Okay, so the principles I've been teaching today are from my book called Value Shift, Learning from the Best of Two Worlds. I've got a copy here with me. There are many more things. Obviously, you can't discuss a book in 1 hour. There are many more things I haven't shared with you, but you get the main gist of the book as to we need to stop giving excuses. We need to know what is good about us and continue practicing that. But we also need to know what we need to start changing so that we can become a developed nation. You can contact ACSI about more information and about how to get a copy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm just looking for some questions from our students, from our parents, from our teachers. Nobody has posted any in the chat yet, so please put your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand as well, as you can use that Zoom function to raise your hands, and then we'll call on you and unmute you to share your question. So any questions, to ask some questions? Before I'm from Nigeria, actually, I'm from the US, and yes, you're very correct that we take great pride in our country. You can never tell us that we're less nation.
Sorry, I think she has disconnected. Hopefully she will join us soon. I'm having a couple of questions. So I'm having a question on your education.
Okay.
Someone is asking if you studied here in Nigeria or abroad.
Yes, I studied in Nigeria up to graduate level. I studied medicine at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Since getting to the UK, I've also done a master's in public health, and I did my specialist training here in the UK. But my basic education up to graduate level, I did in Nigeria. Did I face any challenges when I went to the UK? Oh, yes, I did. Definitely, I did. Like most people, it's a very different culture. I needed to settle in. I needed to overcome some racist tendencies and all of that. But in all of that, I think my firm faith in God, my firm belief in myself and who God has created me to be, has put me through all of those. So yes, I did face challenges, and I still sometimes face, as it's common with life. But I've gone beyond all of those to start saying, how can I make a difference? Am I famous? Not yet, but I'm a bit more famous now. Yeah, now that you.
Yeah, did the Britons see you as the black man who probably didn't know anything?
To be honest, I didn't experience that too much. I was some of the first places where I started. The people I met were very kind and were very appreciative of my knowledge and my expertise. So, if anything, professionally, I didn't face anyone looking down on me, rather an appreciation of the skills and knowledge that I brought. Yes, every once in a while, you still get that tendency with some patients. You never can always change people's attitude towards you, but you can decide how you respond to it. So yeah, there are still people that you get that feeling that they look down on you. But again, being confident in who you are and what you know, and with the validation of your peers, then that's really all you need to carry on doing what you're doing.
So, from your experience, what would be your advice for a teenager who wants to transition to the United Kingdom?
Okay, I think my challenge for that is be really sure that that's what you want to do and that's what God wants you to do. But continue to be the best at wherever you are and in whatever you're doing, and keep looking up information on what might be the best route for you to transit. Certainly, I would not encourage anyone, like we sometimes see here, that people come on a visiting visa, then they don't go back, and they just start running away from the law until they have been here like 10 years. I think if you're going to come legitimately. And the way to do that is to sort of follow your education through and be sure that God wants you to do that. Keep researching ways that you can come over. Are you working on a PhD or do you have one? No, I'm not working on a PhD. Although I'm into medical education, but I do that more from the clinical point of view, teaching medical students and other doctors who want to become GPs. I don't feel I need a PhD for that. A PhD is often people who really want to go into academic, and at the moment, I don't have that interest.
Okay. So someone wants to understand how what you've said, maybe for you to emphasize the more, how it relates to education.
Okay. So the things I've said, you would have seen education in some of those. So when I talked about empowerment, not enforcement, that's right down on education, because what education is doing to you is that it's challenging and stretching your mind. Whether you know it or not, you're becoming a better person. So you can also be at the forefront of championing that for other people that you can disseminate knowledge to. So that has to do with education. Talking about effecting, okay, I'll come back to that.
Yeah, maybe you take these two together. Someone is talking about trying to make changes and getting killed or joining a protest.
Yeah.
Should one get involved? So can you please shed more light on that?
Yeah, I think there's a place for protest, but protest is not everything. If I would use like the End SARS movement, for example, okay, another person has asked that. Interestingly, I was in Nigeria when the End SARS movement protest started, and I saw what was happening, how traffic was being blocked and all of that. And I could see the mood of the nation gradually change. Well, the mood of the city, from initially supporting them to now they are beginning to make our lives miserable. I know somebody who said on a particular day, I think on the bridge that links Ikoyi and VI, I think they were protesting on that road, and the person was in traffic all day. They just could not leave their car and things like that. So I saw how that mood changed. Did I feel what they were protesting for was legitimate? I certainly felt that it was. Did I feel that their strategy was okay? I felt to some extent. But even before the event on the dark Tuesday, I was already questioning what their exit strategy was. Were they going to keep protesting? At what point were they going to come off the road and go to the table? Because at the end of the day, protest has only one purpose: to get attention. If you've got the attention and you are now invited to a negotiation, then go negotiate. That should have been in there, and for them to have clear indicators of what they want to negotiate about. So protest, but don't make that your only strategy. Be sensitive to the people you're protesting against in terms of their attitude. I could have predicted that Tuesday was going to happen with the way things were continuing. It was gradually building towards that. Now, I'm not justifying what happened, but I'm saying be sensible about the change you want to effect. More than anything, strategy is what wins war than might.
Yeah, so let's take this last question for today. Someone is saying, what do I do as an individual to change the political situation and corruption in the system when it seems as if everything is against me?
Yeah, it can feel that way. You wonder when we're going to stop having the old generation recycling themselves and things like that. But remember that with politics at the end of the day is about the support of the people. I think often what has been a problem is that there hasn't been a long-term vision by any political party in Nigeria. There hasn't been. Parties just come up towards election and they field candidates, and however good the candidate is, they cannot win a presidential election because they don't have the roots in the different places. If you look at the way the nation is set up, if you're going to be president, you need to have been a party that has been making change. So my suggestion is that begin to look at finding people that have like minds, people who have a vision like yourself, and start working at the grassroots from now. It may be that you give yourself a 10-year, 15-year goal of getting to the top. It's got to be that long. It cannot be a short-term vision. And you start from the grassroots. Maybe you first need to run for councillor. But before you run for councillor, start doing something in that community so that when people know you as a good person and you then come up to run, it's easy for them to make a decision because you've been making a difference. I'll use a very quick example. I knew when the current Oni of Ife was going to be installed then. And what I read then, and if the dailies were anything to go by, is that his elder brother, he's got an elder brother. His elder brother was overlooked to the throne and they came to him because before then, he had been doing some work, especially amongst young people in Ife. So the elders knew him, the people knew him, that this is somebody who is already making a difference. So it was easier for them to make that choice to choose him, regardless of whatever the oracle said and all of that. I don't know the details of it. But what I'm trying to say here is that he was making a difference and they knew it. So that's how you've got to start. Start doing something to make that difference in your community. Start small and start climbing. If you start as a councillor, then go for local government chair and go up the ladder. It will be so easy when it eventually comes to your turn. And you're making sure as you're doing that political party at this level, you're spreading across the country. I think that's what's going to make a difference. Or alternatively, you can register. I don't know the cutoff age in Nigeria, but here in the UK, many of the politicians of today were already in the political parties from when they were young. They registered and they started attending meetings. They started voicing their opinion. People started knowing them and gradually they started moving up the ranks. The people there right now are not going to be here forever. So you may join some of the established system and begin to make your own change from inside. Because sometimes if you look at the parties, you can never change it from outside. But you go in and start making the difference from inside. And that may be your pathway ultimately.
So I believe this starts from while you are still in school. The way you relate with people, you build your network, even from your class, from your immediate community right now. Sometimes we want to pick it from the top, not from the from the bottom. Thank you so much, Dr. Henry. It has been a wonderful time with you. Thank you for sharing out of your wealth of experience and knowledge. I will pray that God is going to continue to enlarge you in Jesus' name.